Hi, this is Alexandria, here with the Fluid Voice. I'm here with the co-hosts, Christy, Abbey. How are you?
Tired, good. All right, we're good.
How about you, Perfict?
I'm here, feeling fine.
Okay, and saving best for last, here's our guest, Taylor. How are you?
Hello, que mi gente. How you guys doing?
Um, well, I mean, we answered that already. No, I'm, I'm just being silly. I don't think anyone's gotten good sleep. Sorry to any audience members. This is a pre-recorded video. We are not going live today, so which is unfortunate, but scheduling stuff, it happens. Life happens. So today we're talking about being trans in the workplace. So there are a lot of factors relating to discrimination and a lot of other stuff. Perfict being the outsider, the token cis het dude. Do you have anything to say about the lifestyle experience of being trans in the workplace? I know you don't experience that personally, obviously, but
well, I imagine that there are some challenges to meet, and I imagine there's an awful lot of people who I've heard the arguments about it. Some people are presenting the arguments about it, which none of them sound very good. On the side saying that there's any room for discretionary prejudice against trans people or in the workplace. And it's just prejudice. I mean, that they're trying to say that what if people don't want to deal with a receptionist who's trans? And I'm like, I think that's a settled issue. That's so sorry. They'll have to get used to it.
What are the other two? What are your opening thoughts?
Well, just to throw it out there, since I'm always mistaken for Irish for reasons I've never quite understood, probably the red hair. I've had at least two occasions in which I've corrected a boss and said, "No, I'm Hispanic," and all of a sudden I've gotten moved to out of the way or into the bad section, quote unquote, of the office. So I haven't worked outside of my house since 2004. So probably things have changed. But I'm about to find out what it's like to be trans in the workplace because I just got a job.
So. How about you, Taylor? What are your original thoughts, opinions?
So it's really weird for me personally, because I worked in like customer service where I would see up to like 30,000 people a day because I worked at a theme park. And it's a mixed bag, honestly, with me. You know, you get some of those guests who love you and think you're such a brave and amazingly brave person. Like, you know, the random cis girls that walk up to you and be like, "Oh my God, I love your makeup. You're doing an amazing job." Honestly, they make my day better. But then also get those also get those other guests who, let's say something doesn't go their way, and then they decide to try to be disrespectful and transphobic. So I just banned them from my ride.
Okay then. So let's open things up and randomly change things up a little bit, which I forgot to mention and honestly forgot about until just this moment because I have not gotten a good amount of sleep. So I'm gonna ask some questions and I want I'm curious about your opinions and curious what you would think is a good way for what are your thoughts about the problem, its validity and whatnot, and what do you think are good ways for it to be fixed if you have any ideas in terms of stopping people from doing it? So obviously the first one might be an easy question, maybe not, I don't know. So what are your thoughts on the termination of employment due to gender identity? Now, it's more often openly done in states where it's not a problem, but I was wondering what you guys' thoughts regarding that were.
I mean, they just fixed that in Buffalo, but there's I still run into people who had problems. My best friend just got fired for because she was doing sales, and a lot of people in the suburbs weren't talking to her, weren't dealing with her at all. You know, but Buffalo is very, as I've said before, is a very good place to be trans if you're going to be trans. But some of our suburbs are not. So what I've encountered from talking to people for the most part is coworkers having problems, not customers. People who believe that just I don't believe in the trans. I don't believe in trans ideology, and therefore it's okay for me to be an asshole about it. So
Yeah, like trans is an ideology.
yeah, so that's why every time someone says transgenderism, I flip out. Because ism is a belief system. It's not a.
Yes, who convinced you to be trans?
It must be my best friends. So, I don't know. The one. My friend is actually got. I need a part-time job because my car suddenly is costing me thousands of dollars more than I thought, and I leaned on my trans friends to find me to help me find something because there was no way I was going to walk into any random place and just say, "Oh, hi, I'm here. I'm here. I'm trans. Get used to it." You know.
Yeah, but I think that legally that is what the attitude has to take. I mean, the same was said about various groups that my customers may not like having their food delivered by this ethnicity or that, and that therefore I shouldn't have to hire them. I'm allowed to hire according to how my customers want. And basically it took society a little while, but we came to the realization, no, you can't do that. That just doesn't fly.
Taylor, do you have any thoughts on the issue or what should be done about the problem?
Can I cuss, by the way?
Oh yeah, you can fucking swear all the fuck you want.
It's bullshit.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
I'm pretty sure the state I live in, North Carolina, still allows gender identity and sexual discrimination, unless it's old news and I'm just not up to date. But personally, I feel like I have been discriminated against when during interviews, because it's like I'll have all that everything, like if there was a test before, ace that, and that, and that. But the moment they see me walk in, a 6 foot tall Afro Latina with broad shoulders, they're like, oh no. Um, I'm pretty I'm pretty sure that's definitely one of the reasons why. Because like especially here, like a lot of trans people find it hard to get jobs. Um, because of that reason, especially like being dead named, which that is during interviews is the most annoying thing ever. So sometimes when fill out the forms, you say, "Oh yeah, do you go by another name, like any nickname and stuff?" And you put like your new name, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's why a lot of trans people have not been able to get jobs. And then, well, personally, I haven't dealt with any of my bosses being outright discriminatory. They have asked stupid questions, very stupid questions, and I immediately shut it down. But I really would like to see, that type of discrimination to be stopped because I'm just trying to come in, get my bag, and leave. I don't want any mess, no reason for me to go to HR.
Yeah, although HR tends to help the company over the employee a lot of
Well,
times.
then I'll go to Oprah.
Better choice. Honestly, and unless you have a high enough position for them not to fuck you over. But yeah, I mean those have been a lot of descriptions of the problems. I was just curious if you guys had any idea of what could be done to prevent the employment discrimination.
Well, if you make it clear to allies that what we need is to make it clear to our legislators that we want laws that are explicit and say that it is illegal. That really would move a lot. You can move the meter.
Do you guys agree, or do you guys have another plan?
I like that one. That one sounds really good. I would also have a type of like you remember back in the day where they had those like old like HR videos, like what not to say in the workplace. I think something like that when it comes to people who don't look normal in that term and stuff, like how to like talk to them, how to ask about pronouns, how to approach them and stuff. Because a lot of people really just don't know in general. Like the amount of times I've
Yeah.
been called just a tran, like just a tran. I've been called a tran way too much, and it's just that a lot of people don't know. So I would like to see a form of like, I guess like almost like a training class for like a lot of employers on how to deal with trans and queer employees.
All I'm thinking. You suddenly have a minority in the workplace. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Oh, go on. Sorry.
No, the passing as a straight white male has been having been none of those things over the years has been a privilege, which getting rid of it was a conscious that was going to happen. I did not realize quite how much it was a thing, because I'm I mean, I'm obviously openly trans, but and I apologize to the audience for my voice today. It's burning in my ears.
It's okay if you relax and don't think about it. Just that usually helps because it's very easy to overthink. Like if I start thinking about my voice right now, I'm just like, that's way too deep, and like, it's so easy to do that.
Well, in New York, just this last January, passed a number of sweeping reforms, and it had, while Buffalo already had a pretty good employment rules and just again general atmosphere, I got but just as a customer, I got aggressively misgendered at a local donut shop, and I talked to the manager, and they were like, they brought me and sat me down and apologized, and they fired one of the people that did it, and and by aggressively misgendered, it's like, can I help you, sir?
Yeah, no, I definitely well, not directly, indirectly have been aware of an incredible misgendering, where you're just like, the person was just like, no, I'm not sir, I'm ma'am, and the person kept going down with sir, even after being corrected. I mean, that's aggressive misgendering.
Yeah.
I just make them feel like they're stupid when they do that on purpose. Is it mean? Kinda, but is it deserved? Yes. If you're gonna go out of your way to be a complete dick to me, then I'm gonna go out of my way to treat you like a little bitch. So when they do that, I just look at them like, huh? Oh no, huh? Try again, huh? No. Literally, all I do is just hit them with the, huh? Are you sure? You might need glasses, dear. Like, you just gotta hit them with that.
Yeah, I weirdly have not encountered much, or I don't think I've encountered any direct aggressive misgendering, but that's kind of because I didn't start trying to present more feminine until after getting hit by a car 2 years after being on hormone replacement therapy, and having practiced done voice practice off and on, and then I was just like, when you voice practice full time, it's a lot easier to it's easier to keep it up, just in general, but a lot of people aren't in a position where they'd feel comfortable with that.
Just on a side note, I sang last night, and it was the first time I sounded like a girl on stage, which was good. Which is probably why I'm having trouble doing it now. My voice is a little raw.
It's okay.
It's okay. You sound fine.
I'm sorry. I should not complain about shit like that. That's
No, I mean, like, I totally get like the anxiety and whatnot related to all that, and well, I mean, admittedly, I don't have the anxiety of doing it in front of just doing stage stuff, but it's easy to overthink things, and it's okay to not be perfect, even if it sucks.
Well,
even if it
I don't
sucks
know.
a little bit
being
for
perfect is a pretty good deal.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like, I'm sitting out here with my Adam's apple showing and these broad shoulders out. And my arms look hella muscular today, but oh well.
I'm glad that this doesn't exist. I don't have one.
Yeah, my Adam's apple is hard to find. It's there. It's there somewhere. It's hidden. It's hidden somewhere. It's always been hard to spot.
Christy, wouldn't the performing on stage be another kind of workplace?
Yes. When I first came out, that I will speak to. When I first came out, I came out on stage publicly because I'm insane and an idiot and whatever. But I somebody who I told thought it would be a good idea, and he set up an LGBT show, and people were wondering why I was on the bill. I'm like, well, you all know I'm not straight, don't you? And then when they'd press, I'd go, just wait. Yeah, and so I came out on stage in a nice summer evening, and in general, I lost about half my audience pretty much right away, but I think a lot of that had to do with presentation. I was the usual, didn't present well at first type. Now I'm, then I wore my Spanish dress because, goddamn it, I was gonna wear a Spanish dress with all the bangles and shit.
Yeah.
It was more of a statement than anything else, because But yeah, I lost about half my audience, and I've gained a much different audience, which is cool.
So Taylor, you brought this up earlier, and I just wondered if you could go into it a little bit more. Workplace harassment in terms of gender expression and stuff like that.
Oh, what do you mean, like fellow employees, or about like?
Yeah. Well, both would be interesting. Although, when it comes to customers, there's always a fucking asshole customer. Like, that's guaranteed, regardless of how you present or any of that stuff. But employees is a lot more. Well, I mean, customers shouldn't be assholes, but employees definitely in my opinion shouldn't be terrible meanies to other employees. But yeah, what's your experience with that, and what do you think should be done specifically?
So for employees, I was like in sort of a leadership role. So to be honest, from other employees, like at my ride and stuff, and even in my area at the park, no one really said anything to my face. I did hear about stuff behind my back though on a Snapchat group chat, and I just joined the group chat, roasted them all, and left. And then the next day, I acted like nothing happened, and then we moved on. Because what they were doing is they were passing around my pre-transition pictures. Right. So I went in there, roasted all of them, and then the next day I was like, "Hi, you guys ready to work today?" That's what you kind of just have to do, to be honest. But during work, no, not from other employees. No one's ever said anything to me. Probably because I'm a 6 foot tall, broad shoulder woman. I'm probably scary sometimes.
You remind me so much of my sister. Oh my, she's a Spanish looking one. So I'm not. And just the who's also a 6 foot tall, broad shouldered. She's taller than me.
So yeah, and I honestly haven't experienced workplace harassment directly. I was fired by 3M, likely because of an OSHA violation, not because of coming out as trans. Because it fits in with an OSHA violation a lot more. They fired me for being trans a lot earlier. Although they were legally supposed to, because I live in Minnesota, so legally companies have to. There have been employment discrimination books. There have been discrimination laws in Minnesota for gender identity since like 1993. So yeah. I mean, plenty of places got away with it. It's just gotten harder and harder for them to get away with it. So that's probably the reason I wasn't fired from 3M when I came out. Although, yeah. But what do you think would be so in terms of harassment, if it does occur to employee, what would you guys pretend you're managers of a business, or and you have, you can technically not do anything you want, but like you can decide, what's the requirement for firing, whether they need to have a sit down to be talked to. What sort of things do you think would be reasonable for a company to do in the circumstance where an employee is being harassed for gender expression?
Well, I think the standard sort of things where if the person harassing them you need to.
Oh no, you cut out there. Perfect. About that, like there was a freezing on my end. Apparently, likely an internet issue. Sorry. You were. Yeah. I mean, at this point, it might be easier to get your recording, Christy.
It just happened the same when you and Taylor switched.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, whatever. I can edit that out. You were saying Perfect about what you thought would be done. You said something about standard things, and then you cut out for me.
Just the same standard things that they have to be offered. You have to talk with the employee who's doing the harassing, and explain to them what the problem is and why that's unacceptable in this workplace, and then you have to work with them and give them an opportunity to change, because the belief that people can change and be a better person tomorrow than they are today. And then if they are uncooperative with that or unsuccessful even, you have to explain that they're going to have to find another place to work. That's what you talk with them about what their plans for the future are outside of this company. And
then I was saying about even performative change is an acceptable thing. It makes the workplace better, even if the person is cursing it up and down the line when they get home from work and saying, use it. I don't care if someone uses the T slur in their living room as long as they're not, misgendering people at work. Yes.
Yeah, you only can control their behavior at work, not trying to control their thoughts.
Absolutely.
Taylor, do you have any other thoughts about this, or do you pretty much agree?
Pretty much agree. The usual work shit. A verbal, a write up. After, if it keeps happening, and then termination if it happens 3 times. If the same person, or even multiple queer people, non-cis people, whatever, keep coming to me and telling me that you are continuing to be a dick, then I have to cut that paycheck in half, sweetie.
Yeah. And I mean, we need the laws in effect so that employers can't be saying things like, well, my customers don't like to deal with a trans cashier. They want to go shopping in a trans-free experience. So that's what I provide them here at this store. And you can say, no, that just doesn't fly.
I forget. Did you get into? I know you briefly mentioned it at the very least, but did you go into detail why it doesn't fly?
Well, I believe I mentioned it earlier. Well, I mean, they tried making those sorts of things with blacks during the civil rights movement.
Yep.
My customers don't like being serviced by blacks, so I don't hire blacks. And they said, okay, that doesn't work.
Yeah. I feel like I get the impression that there should be like an ethical thing, something to because I mean, obviously people can, if everyone does it, and if most people do it, then it's very easy for no one, for very hard for it to get a job for no good reason. I think ultimately it comes down to, it might come down to, and you can feel, so shit, now my brain is like, what was I gonna say? Oh fuck, the lack of sleep and the sudden stopping stopped my brain. Fuck, does someone remember what I was saying last?
I know Perfict was talking about the discrimination of African Americans and how that had to be dealt with.
Oh, yeah. So in terms of, oh yeah, a recent policy, obviously it would be, you know, showing to people that being trans isn't really a choice, because I think people accept the policies involved with stuff that you can't help, but when it comes to stuff that at the very least people perceive is something that you can change, then all of a sudden it becomes people, if people view it as something that you don't have to do, despite the fact that there is evidence for some people, well, there's evidence that in terms of discrimination and decreasing suicide rates. Christy, sorry, were you going to say something about that, or?
No, I was gonna wait for a different, for a slightly different part of it. My mother and my sister get mistaken for trans all the time because they're reasonably tall, and my mother is very high femme, which I am not. And my sister has a prominent Adam's apple, so you know. My sister, my mom lives down on Long Island, and my sister lives in Salt Lake City, so getting mistaken for trans in Salt Lake City is probably has not been fun for her.
Yeah.
But I've been, one of the things that I have wondered about. Now I don't have the option of going stealth unless I quit I quit performing entirely, which is not going to happen. I do have one friend who is stealth to the point where, since she works for a religious affiliated institution. It's not a religious institution. She's Wiccan. I don't think they'd be happy with that either. But she is, because of the trans being such an open thing now, she's actually starting to get worried about people finding out, because she's from the era where you transitioned and disappeared.
Yeah.
It disappeared into the populace, and now she's starting to get freaked out that they find out that she's trans, and yet they just hired someone who's openly trans, and she hasn't quite gotten her head around that. Who also figured out about her, but it hasn't said anything directly, just sort of hinted, are you one of us? I have personally mistaken people for trans before, incidentally. Just for the record, I've just, are you of my tribe? You know.
Yeah.
But, perhaps perhaps easier than convincing them that it is not a choice is convincing them that it's not their choice.
Yeah.
Even if it is a choice, it's not your choice. Even if they are choosing this, then that's their choice, not yours. You don't get to choose it.
Period. 2 snaps and a clap. Period.
Yeah. No, that might actually be easier. Can I move on or ask a different question?
Yeah.
So, I know this is similar to gender expression harassment a little bit, but like, what do you think could be done about promotion discrimination? Because that's a harder one to spot. I don't know if you guys had any ideas on that or what.
It will become easier as more people are more comfortable being open about being trans. The numbers have been increasing because people are more willing to be publicly trans. So the numbers keep increasing. I mean, and also I include in that the large number of other, so the non-binary, just call them all non-binary. Non-binary is increasing greatly, but it's still only making up 4%. Some studies are saying like 7 and 8, but call it 4. That's not a big number, and it's not that easy to spot when people are not promoting people appropriately based on it. But as the numbers increase, it becomes easier to make a statistical statement about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you two have any thoughts or?
Personally, I don't really know anything about it, to be honest. But like promotion discrimination, that's like kind of the first time I've really thought about it, honestly. Because I know the reasons why I didn't get promoted. I just wasn't ready, and I was just over ambitious.
That sounds dirty.
Okay, maybe to your mind.
Sorry. I'm tired. What do you want from me?
No, that's okay.
Having a dream that I was late for a meeting. I was having a dream I was late for a meeting. Believe it or
you
not.
were.
I was. Even yeah. Hiding the not being white, hiding the not being straight, and hiding the not being male have been 3 similar but different experiences. And it's been nobody would ever promote me anyway, so that's fine. There's something I wanted to say, and I'm trying to make sure I don't out somebody by saying it, which is kind of, I think this is a better safe than sorry situation. I apologize for bringing it up and then dropping it immediately.
No, that's fine. Like the ethics of with regards to outing someone, like it's fair not to out someone.
We all understand. We've all been there.
Yeah, it's a question. I mean, what I said just now was vague enough where it could be almost anybody. But the other one, if anybody else is watching, it would be very easy to figure out who it is.
Yeah. So we touched, or if would you mind if I switch things up again?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, what do you think would be a good idea with regards to all the ways in which people are kind of legally obligated to be open about being trans, practically? Or, well, kind of. Definitely, because they ask about previous names and stuff. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that, and the choice of disclosure and choices of presentation and all that stuff, all that jazz? Because I mean, I think it's all kind of lumped together.
Well, in Minnesota, what do you have? We have what's called a ban the box movement, which has a lot to primarily to do with people who have a criminal record, but it also applies the rulings that it also applies to trans people. So if you've been using the same name for more than a year, they don't need to know anything else.
I have not looked into this. I'm still jumping through hoops for name change stuff. So yeah, I'm in that weird limbo where I've got a court order for a name change, but I have trouble getting the DMV license change. But I've got the Social Security card name change, and it's just like, yeah.
I've been using Chris Abbey for 2/3 of my life, so getting it not being Chris Abbey, not being Chris Abbey is, or not fuck. Changing it legally to that is not really even a question, and if anybody questions, this is the name I've been using, you know. Just not Christy. Christy's fairly recently. Christy Ann is recent. Christopher was my old.
Well,
and Abbey's not my legal last name anyway.
Well, now that you dead named yourself on air, I feel the need to dead name myself, just because it's not much of a risk in Minnesota, honestly. And also this is still pretty small. And also it's not, I don't care enough. My birth name is Daniel. So change it to Alexandria. And I won't go into too many details about name stuff. Here's the thing about common names. It doesn't matter too much, because that's still hard to look up if you just go by the first name. But yeah, legal measures in terms of, yeah, because I don't know other states. And you mentioned earlier, Taylor, about them asking for that at interviews and stuff, like previous names. So do they have to say it, or is there similar name law thing?
Honestly, I refuse, and by refuse, I mean refuse to be dead named, period. Even at interviews, I'm like, oh no, please call me Taylor. No, call me Taylor. I said call me Taylor. Like, something like that. But yeah, I usually try to shut it down quickly, and if they can't remember to call me Taylor, I'm like, Rivera, just say Rivera or Miss Rivera or whatever. But if you dead name me, it's like, for me, it's like an immediate face change. Like, I'll have my good old interview face on, legs crossed, hands like this. It's fully like that.
No.
So, do you think they should? Do they? Do you think they should have like the boxing? What do you think would be good for making sure to better help make sure people don't get dead named in terms of employment?
I mean, with my new job, it took a whole year to get. Like literally, like the whole process took literally almost a whole year. I started June of last year, and I've been dead named the whole time, like the entire time. And it's only recently when I had to fill out a form for my badge that I put Taylor Sonique Lopez Rivera. And then when the person hit me back, she was like, "Okay, Taylor, you're all set." And I was like, so I think it's just the fact that a lot of jobs don't have on like the forms and stuff, they don't really have like new names from what I've seen. It's a lot of, were you married before? What was your previous married name? Stuff like that. But I don't see a lot of jobs that have new name stuff. And honestly, if you're like wearing a badge or something, I know some people who have literally their Instagram handles as their badges. So I really don't think it should be a problem to have a preferred name or choose a name as your badge, and then when it comes to being dead named, I guess like when you're gonna get dead named by your bank, your paycheck, your stuff like that. So like
Yeah.
I understand that, but when it's something like a badge or you addressing me, I should not be dead named.
Yeah. Perfect. Did you have any thoughts about any of this?
I can't think of how to avoid it really in many ways. I mean, if they're going to be bonding you for handling money, they're going to have to check into your background, and at least the bonding company, even if you have your name legally changed, they're going to hit that. And I'm not sure that wouldn't come up on the employer's records. And so I'm just trying to think of if there's a way to legally and responsibly say, this is something that should be.
I think it's unfortunate because I don't know about y'all, but me personally, I like to think of that person literally. When I say dead name, I mean literally dead. They don't exist anymore. We do not speak of that person. We do not show pictures of that person. So I think it's unfortunate that I'm gonna have to keep, even after I get my name legally changed, after I legally change my gender to female, after like all this shit basically I'm gonna have to go through, I'm still gonna have to basically use that name for like all my background checks and shit. So I think it's unfortunate, but I don't really think there's a full way around it because at the end of the day, it is a safety thing. Like the same way that you would check the background check of just any other random person. It's uncomfortable as hell. It definitely is uncomfortable as hell. But I think there's nothing we can really do about it, to be honest.
Okay. And outside of that, I do like the badge thing. I know Target forever has basically had like a nickname section of basically you can be like, what name do you want on your badge? So but to be fair, Target was, I think, on the friendlier end, for at least in Minnesota, for trans employees.
Yeah, and they're like one of the first like mainstream stores I really saw that had Pride merch, like compared to like a Walmart, basically.
Yeah.
They were quick, and I mean, back when Target still had them ugly ass neon squiggles on the walls.
Well, yeah, but Target is a store that didn't Target start in Minnesota? I feel like Target started in Minnesota, and Minnesota has employment discrimination laws since 1993, so that might be part of the reason why things popped up so quick, because Target happened to get like big quick, and they already had like to start thinking about that stuff anyway, so they're just like, well, yeah.
One thing I don't like is
No, go ahead.
one thing I really don't like is brands that do hella transphobic and homophobic and racist shit behind closed doors, but then try to pose as being, you know, the most progressive company ever. I really don't like that shit. I feel like if you're gonna be discriminatory, you better stand in that shit and you better run with it. But don't try to lie to people's faces. Like Chick-fil-A, for example. Who the fuck is inviting Chick-fil-A to Pride? I swear to God, if I go to Pride, I swear to Amun Ra himself, if I go to Pride this year and I see Chick-fil-A, I'm gonna have a fit. I'm gonna take the Chick-fil-A sauce and then I'm gonna have a fit. Because I really don't like that, to be honest. Like, if you say something fucked up and you still mean it, don't try to apologize because people are dragging you. You better stand in your shit. You said it, stand in your fucking shit. Brands be pissing me off with that shit.
And for the record, Alex, Roseville, Minnesota.
Oh. Oh, Roseville too? That's so close. I grew up in Little Canada, so like I went to Roseville area high school, so because Little Canada only has the elementary school. The middle school, the Roseville area middle school, is in Little Canada. It's not in Roseville, which is like a really weird thing. Sorry, random facts about Minnesota.
It's okay.
Where I grew up.
I lived in Woodstock for a couple of years, and it's nowhere near where the concert was. And there's a long explanation for why it was still called Woodstock, but you don't want to hear it. Actually, it is interesting. But you don't want to hear. The first time. Okay, as I was considering coming out, this was not, and I'm putting it as considering, as instead of flailing and drowning, which was actually what was going on. I had two friends in Minnesota who, two online friends in Minnesota who, both were having employment discrimination problems, and even though there is the laws there, the inner office misgendering didn't stop with them. And
yeah,
that's the thing that bugs me. It's not so much the customers. Customers will tend to, okay, you're gonna give me your cheeseburger, I don't care who you are. As long as you don't, as long as you don't smell like a garbage dump, or even if you do, it doesn't matter. Are you giving me my food? But other employees is always where I've heard it before. And again, like I said, my mother, for some reason, for the last several years, has been accused is not the word I want, but mistaken for trans, and has had actual problems because of it, even though she's covered under the New York State laws too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things about any sort of discrimination like this, when because it's not going to affect you. Sometimes these policies, if they're based on, you know, how you look, like, it's not just gonna affect trans people, it's gonna affect cis people too, if they look too different.
I was very worried for a while about performing as performing singing, and I did a thing, and I talked to the person about it beforehand, and I said, look, we were planning on doing stuff together anyway, but one of the reasons why I'd like you to open for us for a little while is because you pass for trans more than I do. Because, you know, when I'm in good makeup, and I can actually pass.
Yeah, and
her voice is deeper.
So
she is cis, just so you know.
Uh, yeah. So like now is usually when we're about the time when we would do free flow, and we've got about 10 minutes left. So did you guys have any thoughts that weren't covered? Just anything you want to complain about at all?
So it's so weird, like especially working in customer service when you're like face to face with someone, not like just on the phone. Because on the phone, that's another thing. The misgendering that happens to people who work on the phone, that's annoying.
Yeah.
Like literally the amount of times I've had to verify myself with the bank, it's, do I have to give you guys a form telling you that I have dysphoria or something? The fuck is up with that? Anyways.
I do.
Literally though, I really should though go up there and be like, hey, the same bitch you saw in 2017, 18, they don't exist no more. That's me. But it's so weird. I always say this, men either want to fuck me or kill me. And it's so hard to tell the difference, especially at work, because I'll be sweating bullets working, checking a whole train, like for like a coaster and shit. And I'll see like, especially dads with their kids stare so much. And they will just be staring at me, like directly into my eyes, peeping into my soul. And I find it to just be so weird. Not like weird, like ill, weird, but weird, like, okay, can you look somewhere else? You know, there's a TV right there. Can you watch that? Like, why you gotta be watching me? Because it's like they're scanning you, and it's just very odd to me.
Yeah.
And then speaking, I remember when I first started transitioning, it was like right before like the season of the theme park just started. So my voice was a little rocky, basically, because I basically transitioned literally right before, like 3 weeks before. And I remember like it was not cute. It was not cute at all. And then when I actually started becoming more passable, I guess, that's when literally the amount of dudes that would try to hit on me and not know I'm trans. I'm like, oh, I'm not trying to get murdered, baby. No, baby. Like, I remember, like, first off, 50-year-old dude trying to ask for my number. And I'm like, do you not see this? Like, what is, are you literally just missing all the pieces? Mind you, I would not tuck at work at all. Not while I'm working. I don't give a fuck at that point.
Well, I mean, I somehow managed to find an online store that had really comfortable underwear for tucking. I don't know if it still exists. I never saved information for it. But that's always nice to have, because it's just like regular panties, but like good for tucking somehow.
You know those really just on and off thing again. The this meeting will end in 10 minutes. Just told me. Okay.
I see it.
The Duluth Trading Company, they do all the macho commercials. Those underwear is the best for tucking. Absolutely the best for tucking. But my of all things, my when I first came out, the first thing my ex-wife's fiance did was buy me 3 gaffs that are of reasonable tucking ability, and I actually don't feel comfortable if I'm not. I didn't before, so what should I now?
But as far as having guys stare at you, Taylor, at odd moments, that's just part of being a woman.
Yeah.
True. Like sometimes I do be forgetting that, not to sound conceited or nothing, but I am bad as fuck. So sometimes it's like, okay, so are you staring at me because I'm pretty or because you're disgusted by me? Sometimes it's confusing, especially at work, because you're like, okay, I'm still at work, so I can't really be like, you know, that. But it's funny how guys literally, it's like I'll be on like the other side of the station, like doing something else, and then they get close to me and their faces change. It's like, oh,
Oh, oh, that's always
Oh.
the worst.
I mean, I'm at work. I'm not looking for a dude.
Well,
at
yeah,
work.
I know.
I'm not looking for a girl at work. I'm looking for
Yeah,
money.
I know. It's uh although it was funny because I that definitely happened before I tried to do any sort of presenting. I just had medium long hair and like from a distance at night
That'll do it.
yeah, and uh yeah, no, that's interesting. Although the first time I was definitely sure I passed was of course with a racist person mansplaining to me. And I knew I passed because there's no way this person was open to being trans, to me being trans. So it was when I was dealing with a recovery after the car getting hit by car shit. But like yeah, it was very much like asking me a bunch of stuff about myself. I mentioned I was born in Wisconsin, but I've lived most of my life in Minnesota, and then he starts explaining Minnesota to me after that because I mentioned I wasn't born there, and decides to start mansplaining things and talk about how black people just want to fuck me or whatever. And it wasn't even like the person walked to me from a bus stop, like a kitty corner bus stop. It wasn't even the bus stop they were going to wait at. They just like managed to find some in between time and walked to the bus stop I was sitting at. And I was like, I didn't want to look him in the face because I was afraid that, because his early with presenting. So it's just like, oh my god, if he sees my face, like
Right now.
Unfortunately, the first person who actually shows an interest is the person who's going to get shot down because what the hell is going on?
Yeah, yeah.
We have 5 minutes and 59.
Yeah, so
you want to
yeah.
make it short, so say goodbye.
So well, no, Christy, where can people find you?
Christy Abbey is my channel, spelled just the way it is on my thing, CHRISTY ABBEY, like the road. Is my YouTube channel. You can find me on Twitter at Normality Quake, or just type in Christiane Abbey, and you'll find me. CHRISTYANNE. And the up on this channel, because Eliani set this up before she took her break. I'm supposed to put up at least one thing from the Buffalo Punks Planned Parenthood, which turned out to be all trans. Who almost all trans people. Poor Christina was performing and didn't was like surrounded. And that's about it for now. There's still Chris Abbey music if you want to see what I looked like in bad makeup when I first started.
It's okay. Perfect.
All I'm promoting is the Fluid Voice and Discord channel, the Rumpus Room. That's the only things now.
And Taylor, where can people find you?
All right, my YouTube channel is Taylor Rivera. It's all pink. You'll find it pretty easy because literally everything's pink. My Snapchat is JMajesty99. My Twitter is Taylor Rivera99. My Instagram is Princess Taylor99, and my TikTok is Taylor220899. Definitely be sure to watch my videos. I would appreciate that. And definitely check out the podcast I'm working with called Trans Talk for Men. Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play. You can find it all over there. Trans Talk for Men. And yeah, that's really all I have to promote. And trans rights.
Yeah, and you can find me at Ozma in the Dark wherever I happen to be, except on Twitter where I'm talking to nothing. It's talking to nothing but minus the G. That's where I'm found on Twitter, but everywhere else I try to be Ozma in the Dark. And I'll try to get can you send me after this a link to the more stuff so I can put it on the channel? Because I know I put a couple of your things, Taylor, on there. But yeah, so this has been Alexandria about the Fluid Voice. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Peace.